the importance of factoring human development. And there is no way you want to speak about human development without actually looking at the moral values that defines that society, that brings together the people, that help them to crystallize their behaviors, their actions, and all of that. And all of these geared towards national growth and development. And so it is because of this that our great university feels so strongly obliged that a course like this should be introduced to students, particularly at this level, so that you therefore understand your place in the Nigerian society. You understand your place in human society. You understand your place here at Olabisi Onabanjo University. You understand your place in wherever you find yourself, and be able to know what your specific duties are towards that society, and what the duty of the society is towards you as an individual within the given space that you occupy. And that is why it is important to take a course like this. Again, GST112, Nigerian People and Culture. So we'll be talking so very much about what it means to be a Nigerian, and then look at also the historical emergence of Nigeria as a country, and then look at the diverse people that we have in Nigeria, the diverse cultures and tribes and peoples that characterize our landscape, and also look at how these could crystallize into national growth and development, how we can actually harness all of this diversity towards unity, towards national cohesion, towards growth, and towards development as well. So this is the content with which the context with which we are looking or interrogating this particular course. Let's just speak briefly on the issue of the introduction. What I intend to do with the class of today is just to introduce the class to all of you. Introduce the class, and then in our subsequent engagement, we'll be looking at the different topics that will characterize GST112. But for today, we just want to actually look at the introductory part of this particular course, building foundation, a very firm one, I should add, towards our continuous engagement with Nigerian people and culture. Now, GS112 is a unit, 2-unit course for 100-level students of our great university, Olabisi Onabanjo University, Agoiwoye. Now, the general objective of this course is to introduce you, all of you, to what culture is, and to help you understand the roles culture plays in the socio-economic as well as political lives of Nigeria. And I'm going to take that again. The general objective of this course is to introduce you to what culture is in Nigerian context. And of course, I should add that, just as I said earlier, that we are diverse people, different tribes, different cultural patterns and behavior. And we have 3 major ones: the Yoruba, the Hausa, and the Igbo. But there are several other ones as well, too. And so our identity, therefore, is diverse. If you look at the way I'm dressed now, you'll see that I dress typically as a Yoruba person. It is possible that the way you are dressed like an Hausa person or an Igbo person, and so on and so forth. So it is this diversity that we are harnessing, all of us are intentionally harnessing together to engender growth and development for Nigeria. And so, like I said, the general objective, therefore, is to introduce you to what culture is, and to help you understand the roles that culture plays in the socio-economic and political lives of many people. But in this particular instance, we are looking at Nigeria. Now, you are also expected to be familiar with the scope of culture, and its characteristics and its interrelatedness to human growth and development. Now, that is to imply that in any given society, there can never be, development, there can never be growth without understanding the culture of that particular group, and then harnessing the strengths of that particular culture to bring about human growth and development in that society. in the traditional Yoruba setting, and I should say also generally across all tribes in Nigeria, you realize that we have vocational skills that we are involved with. And some of these vocational skills eventually became, family, businesses and all of that. I'm talking about before the advent of the colonizers in Nigeria. And so you realize that we were very intentional people, very industrious people. And the remnant of that is what we even see today. If you look at our mothers, the way they are very versatile, the way they do involve in this particular business and that business and this one and that one and all of that, you understand the versatility of our people and then the importance of studying them. Because it is when we study them, we'll be able to know exactly what our heritage are. And then we'll now be able to build on those particular heritages that we have acquired from our forebears as you make projection towards the future. So you are expected to be familiar. All right. Sorry for that glitch, network glitch. I've been made aware that you're unable to see the slide that I'm sharing, but I could see some students actually making certain lines. So that means some persons could actually see the slide I'm sharing. But I'm going to reshare it now so that all of us will be on the same page together. Okay, I'd like to believe that you can see the slide now. All right. So as I was saying, I told you earlier that GST112 titled Nigerian People and Culture is an important course. And the university intentionally, brought about this course so that we'll be able to learn about our culture, about our values, our ethical patterns and practices, our modus operandi as a people. And then we have to also take into cognizance that we are diverse people in Nigeria, different, cultural affiliation, different tribal affiliations, and so on and so forth. But this does not necessarily portend that we cannot be united, because we can still be united in spite of those diversity. And that is exactly what the government of Nigeria is preaching and teaching. And that is exactly, again, what this course is emphasizing, that in spite of that diversity, there can also still be unity. In spite of religious different religious affiliations, we can still pursue common goals together towards national growth and development. So I was looking at all of this background before the interlude that we had earlier. So we said earlier that the general objective of this course is to introduce all of you to what culture is within Nigerian context, and to help you understand the roles that culture plays in the socio-economic as well as the political lives of Nigeria. The role that culture plays. It defines us, our language, our clothes, what we wear, how we wear those things, what we eat, and how we eat it, how we sleep, how we perform rites of passages, whether it is birth or burial or wedding. All of these summarizes our cultural ways of life and pattern, which may, of course, be tangential to some other nations or continents around us. But thankfully, we are not looking at other nations and continents. We are looking at Nigeria and how we can harness all of these diversities towards national growth and development. Now, I also said earlier that you are expected to be familiar with the scope of culture and its characteristics and its interrelatedness to human growth and development. You must realize, and very importantly so, that there can never be any major human growth and development without taking into cognizance the role that culture plays in that particular society. Now, whether we are going to be industrious or otherwise, culture defines it. It explains our values, whether we are trustworthy, whether we are reliable, whether we are people of integrity, whether we are people who are noble in our deeds or our actions. Now, whether we are going to have human growth and development depends so heavily on all these cultural patterns and behavior. Now, as a people, are we trustworthy? Are we reliable? Are we dependable? Can people trust us with money? Can we speak with one mouth and not speak from both sides of our mouth? Can we just do things right and in the right manner? These are things that borders around culture. These are things that speak about our pattern of behavior, that speaks to the issue of values. What we hold to be very dear, what we hold to be very sacrosanct, what we hold to be very important, what we hold to be very good. All these things are encased, encapsulated under the concept of culture. Whether we want to look at ethics too, ethical behavior, pattern of behavior, how should we do this? How should we do that? Should we respect our elders? Should we respect our seniors? Should we accept corrections or we should not accept correction? All of these speaks to the issue of culture. And that is why for us to have growth and development in Nigeria, it is important that we also study culture so that we can therefore harness all of these resources that are embedded in culture and human values, and then appropriate same towards national growth and development. So, and that is what basically the interrogation of this course emphasizes how to harness all the resources, structure, and how to galvanize all of them towards human growth and development. So we will also speak about the course in terms of its division. In terms of its division, it is divided into 10 study sessions. 10 study sessions. It will first introduce the concept of culture. It will first introduce the concept of culture, generally speaking now, and then it will narrow it down to Nigerian culture and characteristics. The Nigerian culture, whether we're looking at Yoruba people, for instance, or the Igbo people of the Southeast, or we are looking at another part of Nigeria. So it speaks to the issue of national culture, Nigerian culture, in spite of our diversity, in spite of our different and many and varied cultural patterns and behavior. And so we are therefore going to look at Nigerian culture in that particular context and also look at its characteristics as well. Now, one other thing again that we are going to also emphasize is ethics. What is right and what is wrong? Ethics. We're going to look at ethics of our behavior, of our action, of our deeds, things that we do and how we do them, ethical patterns of behavior, what we hold dear to ourselves, what is important, and what made those things important: to be trustworthy, to be reliable, to be just, to be equitable, to be fair in all that we do. So we are going to look at the issue of ethics as well. And then discipline. We are going to also consider discipline. How should we discipline one another? What should be our personal drive? What should be our discipline? And when we talk about discipline in this regard, we are not looking at discipline as a course of study. We are looking at pattern of behavior, systematized ways of acting, of behaving, of responding. These are the context with which we intend to use discipline in this course. So we are going to look at discipline in national life as well. If you, for instance, look at the Yoruba people, particularly you look at the Ijebu people, it is generally believed that they love party so much and so much. They love party, they do this, they do that. Okay, they are shrewd when it comes to money and so on and so forth. Now we are going to look at all of these nuances as we examine or explore culture in Nigerian context. We look at the Igbo people. It has often been said, though erroneously, that they are not respectful, they are not, they don't know how to kowtow, how to prostrate like Yoruba would do, or how to kneel like a Yoruba girl is expected to do, and all of that. But that is erroneous anyways. They have their own unique way of showing respect. So you now see that in every human society in Nigeria, therefore, there are certain things to be interrogated. And that is what we intend to do, to interrogate all of these nuances that defines us as a people, that explains us as a people, that help us synchronize all of our actions and deeds towards communal growth and development. And that is what we are going to be doing as we look at that particular topic. So we look at norms, and then we look at values as well. What is of value to you? What is our national value? What is the value that we have in Olabisi Onabanjo University, which is the best university in Nigeria? What are the specific values that we have that defines us as a people? Our moral values, moral duties and obligations. What are those specific things that defines us as a people? These are the things that we want to actually look at. And how do we therefore bring all of these knowledge, this varied knowledge, this various knowledge together to engender growth and development amongst our people? So that is one other aspect of that topic that we intend to interrogate. So again, the norms and values in the society. Then another thing we are going to look at as a topic is the reorientation of moral values for development in Nigeria. How do we reorientate this current generation? How are we going to reorientate this current generation wherewith there is general laxity in behavior, in morality? This current society is bedeviled with a whole lot of anomalies. So how do we re-engineer this society? How do we recalibrate this society? How do we tell this current generation that moral value is very, very important? How do we tell them that, see, taking care of yourself bodily is very, very important? How do we make them understand that having proper ethical behavior, manner of behavior, values, things that are very, very important? How do we tell this generation that all of these things are important and that we need to do them? So these are things that characterize that particular topic in terms of reorientating ourselves, telling ourselves the importance of moral values. And that is why you realize that a few years ago, particularly, I should think, during the administration of Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, he created a particular agency, NOA, National Orientation Agency. Now, that agency is actually meant to reorientate the people, to make them understand that, okay, we have a challenge about our moral values in Nigeria, the importance of truth, the importance of being just, of being fair, of having the fear of God, of the sacredness of life. Now, it is because of all of this that that administration, therefore, inaugurated that agency. And up to now, we still have that agency working assiduously towards bringing about growth and development in Nigeria. But of course, by first looking at the importance of moral values and proper ethical behavior as we pursue national growth and development. Again, all of these will be discussed in the course of our interrogation of that topic. In addition, we'll look at features and practice of African religion generally. African religion, what are the specificities of the African religion? Because it is important. Inherent in our culture is also our religion. So there is no way we want to talk about culture that will not also speak about African heritage, about our African religion, and those specific moral values that defines our African religion. Very, very important moral values that defines our African religion. So we'll be looking at these very importantly as well. Now, we'll also look at Nigerian art and culture in the pre-colonial times. In other words, before the colonial master came, what were the specific Nigerian art and culture that characterized that society? Because in this art and culture also, we find our values, we find our culture, we found our moral values, our ethical patterns of behavior, and so on and so forth. So that is why it is important to also look at those specific art and culture during the pre-colonial times. And after that, we therefore look at economic self-reliance in Nigeria. How has our people been faring economically? How has they been, practicing their businesses, their ingenuity? And like I said earlier, our people are very ingenious. They are very creative. They create wealth, very importantly. And so what lessons can we therefore learn from our forebears in terms of economic self-reliance in such a way that they will not have to depend on anybody? Yes, it is important that you study, but you see, education today is also not just enough. You have to look at what again can I do in terms of vocational skills to also further help my education. And so these are the things that we can also, borrow from our forebears. And we're going to look at that. We will exhaust it as well and look at the economic self-reliance that characterize the Nigerian people. Another major topic that we're going to look at is the changing self in a transitional society. Now, the Nigerian society is evolving. It's moving, it's changing. All manner of things are happening at a very alarming rate, at a very rapid rate. So how do we change? And then in changing, how do we maintain our identity? How do we maintain our culture? How do we maintain our values? How do we maintain our identity as a people? Now, we have seen a whole lot of young persons on social media, when they have to write their name, let's hypothetically imagine that their name is it's like my name now, Sheyi. And so instead of writing S-E-Y-I, they will write S-H-Y, and then, S-H, then E, then Y-H-I. Now, that is not the correct pronunciation of Sheyi. But because they actually want to impress some other people, perhaps maybe in Europe and America and all of that, for ease of pronunciation of their names, they have to add all of that. But you are struggling to pronounce the white people's name. Why shouldn't they struggle? Why are you giving them opportunity not to struggle to pronounce yours? If you can pronounce theirs, they should be able to pronounce yours as well. And so the way we dress today, the way we talk today, even the way we greet today, this generation, you are so comfortable greeting with English language because you do not want to do it properly in the Yoruba way or the Hausa way or the Igbo way. So, good morning, sir. It's okay. So you don't have to genuflect, you don't have to bow, you don't have to do anything other than just good morning, sir. Whereas if you have to do it in an African way, you will have to actually do much more than that. And so these are the things that we want to talk about. How do we maintain our identity in a changing society, in a transitional society? How do we become who we are? How do we go to a restaurant and then still maintain our way of eating morsels, our way of eating pounded yam or amala, and then you use your hand to do that instead of having to use cutleries? I want to believe that most of you will have seen people using cutleries to eat amala, to eat swallow, which is alien. The natural way, the traditional way to eat amala or any morsel in Nigeria is to use your hand. Now, how did we come to the level where we started having English name for our local foods? And whereas we are comfortable using the local names of the foods that we bring from Europe and America, how did we get to the level of saying amala is cassava flakes? Whereas we know how to pronounce Spanish food, we know how to pronounce Chinese food, we know how to pronounce American food, and even foods from France. As technical as that could be, we can pronounce them very, very well. And we go to eatery. But we decided to be using English name for our own local foods. Is there anything wrong in calling amala amala? But we have to just names for it so that we'll be able to allow those who are in Europe and America perhaps to be able to understand and be able to pronounce it properly. So we'll be looking at all of this as well. The society as it's evolving, the society as it's changing. So the changing self in a transitional society. How do we continue to move forward as a people? How do we continue to bring about the change, the evolution of artificial intelligence? How do we bring all of this to bear without necessarily changing our identity without necessarily, collapsing our identity. So that is what that particular topic is emphasized. And we'll be talking so much more as we look at that topic later in our classroom engagement. Finally, all of you, you will be introduced to the negative attitude in the society. Negative attitude in the society, cyber bullying, cyber crimes, prostitution, and so on, human trafficking, organ trafficking, a whole lot that we'll be looking at as we continue our engagement together in the class. So we will be looking at that topic as well. Now, let us now look at the aim of this course. What is the aim of GST112? Now, this course aims to introduce students to the basic concept of culture, and how that particular culture dovetails into national growth and development. I did say that earlier, how it dovetails into national growth and development. So it is expected that the knowledge gathered in this course will enable students to effectively understand culture in the Nigerian context, of course. Furthermore, it is also aimed that this course will help you understand your place in nation building and community development in the context of Nigeria. Nation building is not just a single person's effort. All of us will have to come together to engender the kind of Nigeria that we desire. Do we all desire a Nigeria that works for all of us? A Nigeria that is just and equitable? A Nigeria that is fair, a Nigeria that is morally upright? Then all of us will have a duty, we have a role to play in the emergence of that particular Nigeria that we also desire. And that is one of the aim of this course, to help you to help you understand your place in nation building. Now, if you want a Nigeria that is working for all of us, then you also must do something to make Nigeria work. If your desire is to get a Nigeria that is fair and just in its equitable distribution of wealth and resources, then you must also be fair, equitable, and just in your action. That is what basically this course is also calling attention to. And so we all of us, every one of us, you and I, we have a specific role, an important role to play in nation building and community development. So in whatever community you have found yourself, you are supposed to play certain major roles in bringing about development in that society, even at home, in your department, in your faculty, in the university entirely. You have specific roles to play to engender the kind of society that you want. If your desire is to have a Nigeria that works, then you must also work towards bringing about that Nigeria. And it is possible. This university believes that it is possible. And we are going to help you understand the possibility of this possibility. And then we'll work towards engendering that society that we all will be proud of. Now, let's now go to the course objectives. Now, each session has specific objectives. Each section of this particular course has specific objectives that characterize them. Now, students are advised to understand the objectives of each session before proceeding to subsequent sessions. You should always revise the objectives of each session to ensure that you have done what is required of you at the end of the session. However, below are the overall objectives of this course. So on completing this course, you should be able to, number one, explain the concept of culture. I'm expecting that at the end of this semester, you should be able to explain the concept of culture and its interrelatedness to Nigeria towards growth and development. Number two, you should be able to discuss Nigerian culture and its characteristics. I expect at the end of the semester, you should be able to discuss Nigerian culture and its unique characteristics. And then number 3, you should be able to evaluate ethics and discipline in national life. You should be able to evaluate ethics and discipline in national life. And I've spoken about this earlier too. You should recall when I was broaching on the topic of the introduction to the course. Ethics, what is good, what is right, and discipline. How do we have national discipline? How do we have a societal discipline wherewith everybody will behave accordingly, will behave rightly? You know that particular concept of omoluabi? How do we all have this particular concept? And it's not just in Yoruba or among Yoruba people alone. Cut across all tribes in Nigeria, that concept, that morally brought all person, that very mannerly behaved person, rightly behaved person, that concept is everywhere in Nigeria. And so it's not just about the Yoruba people alone that we can talk about Omoluabi. The concept of Omoluabi is across all cultures that we have in Nigeria. A well-mannered, a well-principled, a well-behaved person. So we will also, I expect at the end of the semester, we should be able to evaluate ethics and discipline in national life. Number 4, should be able to assess norms and values in the society. Assess norms and values in the society. It should interest you to recall that I did say it earlier, that if our desire is to engender Nigeria that works for all of us, there are certain norms and values that will have to define us. We have to re-engineer the way we think. We are too materialistic in thinking, particularly this generation. And so if we are going to engender growth and development that is sustainable, then there is a need for us to have certain norms and values that will have to define us as a people, that will have to define us as a community. But what we have today in the current society is appalling. We are fast losing our moral values, our ethical principles that defines us as a people. We are losing our culture as well. Now, look at the names that we give to children nowadays. Now, I'm not saying anything is wrong with Christian name, but look at the type of names that we bear. Genesis, Revelation, Covenant. What is wrong with Yoruba name? Most of you, how can you actually have a good sentence in Yoruba without interspersing it with English? Because there was a generation in Nigeria that taught another generation that it is sinful for you to speak Yoruba in the school. So at school, they will not speak Yoruba. At home, they will not speak Yoruba or any other native language. Now, how do you want them to understand that language? So they have taken away our cultural value. They have demonized our culture. They've demonized our language. I have often asked students on campus, say, look at that person. So crass. So Yoruba. Look at how he's speaking the English language. And I've had, sometimes when I hear such expression, so to call us, do you have a tribal mark on your tongue? Because the person perhaps is from Ibadan and is pronouncing or using English language the way Ibadan people will use English language. Or somebody from Egba, from Abeokuta, and is using English language, and then as the person is speaking English language, you will see that particular tonal pronunciation. As if that is a sin. It's because we have come to that level where we have seen our native languages, our local languages, as something that is bad, something that is horrible. And it is not true. So we want to assess norms and values in the society. What are those things that are important to us? And how do we make those things that are important to continue to be important? So I expect that you should be able to understand that at the end of the semester. Number 5, I expect that at the end of the semester, you should be able to discuss how to reorientate. You should be able to discuss reorientation of moral values for development. How do we reorientate ourselves? How do we reteach ourselves? How do we retool ourselves? How do we recalibrate ourselves towards bringing about proper moral values, proper pattern of behavior. How do we do that? How do we reorientate ourselves? Because what the Oyinbo man did was to tell us that our culture is bad, our values are bad, they are horrible, and so you have to embrace theirs. And look, where has that led us to now as a people? Where has that led us to as a people? So it is important that we return back to status quo, return back to that which God has given to us. And God has not made a mistake creating us Yoruba, Hausa, or Igbo people, or any other tribe that we have. God has not made a mistake. If he had wanted you to speak Queen's English very fluently, then maybe we'll have created you in Europe or somewhere. But you are Nigerians. It means something. Please let it count. History is watching us. What did I say? History is watching us. Let it count. It is not accidental nor coincidental that you are Yoruba, that you are Igbo, that you are Hausa. Let it count. Let it mean something. So we will be looking at all of these norms and values within the context of our society, and then how to reorientate ourselves to engender national growth and development. Number 6, at the end of the semester, I expect that should be able to explain African religion, the features and practices of African religion in our society. So I want you to be able to do that. You will be able to do that, I know, because it's one of the major topics that we'll be looking at as we continue our engagement together with GST112. So explain African religion, speak about its features and its practices in the Nigerian society. Number 7, I also expect that I should be able to discuss Nigerian art and culture in pre-colonial time. Nigerian art and culture in pre-colonial time. Nigeria art and culture in pre-colonial time. So that's another major thing that at the end of the semester, I'm expecting that you should have gathered certain competencies, should have acquired skills and competencies in understanding African art and culture, particularly Nigerian art and during the pre-colonial time. So number 8. Number 8. At the end of the semester, I expect that you should be able to evaluate economic self-reliance of our people, of our forebears, of our fathers, of our mothers. What are those specific things that they used to do that makes them to be very gainfully employed? In terms of businesses, in terms of what they do for living. So we'll be looking at that, and I expect that you'll have gathered certain skills and competencies around that particular topic as well, because we are going to look at our forebears. What were those specific vocational skills that characterize our native society in those days, and what lessons can we learn from them in terms of, in addition to our educational pursuit, what more can we do? What Yoruba will call iṣẹ́ ọwọ́, vocational skill. What more can we learn? So that even if the certificate is not bringing the required financial gratifications that we so desire, what can we do on our own while we wait for white collars job? What can we do? How can we package whatever it is that we have learned, whether it is fashion designing or hairdressing or nail technician, whatever nomenclature it bears? How can we actually, bring about or turn all of those acquired skills and competencies to financial benefit to ourselves? So we will be looking at all of these as well. And then number 9, at the end of the semester, I expect that you should be able to discuss the changes self in a transitional society. The changes self in a transitional society. In other words, as the society is evolving, as it is changing, as we are looking at inventions, as we are looking at technological breakthrough, all manner of things are happening almost at the same time. Now we are in the era of the AI, artificial intelligence. Very soon we are likely to be having humanoids, in other words, android human beings. So what is the implication of all of that? How do we, get to that particular level of technological breakthrough and still not lose our identity, our culture, our values? These are things that we will be speaking about when we get to that particular topic. And I expect that at the end of this semester, you will be able to speak very exhaustively around the changing self in a traditional transitional society. So that is that. Then number 10, which is the last. At the end of the semester, I expect that you should be able to explain negative attitude in the society. Negative attitude in the society. Negative attitude in the society that are inimical to growth and development. At the end of the semester, I expect you to be able to speak extemporaneously on these negative attitudes, whether it is lying, injustice, dishonesty, and so on and so forth, cybercrime, money rituals. The list is actually endless. So what are these negative attitudes and what are their implications in the society? And how do we halt them? How do we put a stop to them as we move towards national growth and development? So these are the specific things that at the end of the semester, I'm expecting that you will be able to understand and you'll be able to speak to and be able to even debate very progressively around them. And these are the things that will characterize our engagement together for this semester. And that is all I want to do for this morning, to give you an introductory perspective to GST112, Nigerian People and Culture. And then in our subsequent classes, we'll be interrogating all of these outline objectives and topics. Particularly next class, we'll be looking at culture. We'll be looking at culture in the Nigerian context, and what we need to do the more to understand our culture, to understand our people, to understand our values, our ethical patterns and models, and so on. So that is what we are going to do. So in this class of today, let me make a quick recap. We have spoken about the introduction to GST 112, Nigerian People and Culture. We have said it's a 2-unit course meant for 100-level students in our great university. I've spoken about the general objective of this course, which is to introduce you to what culture is and to also help you understand the roles that culture plays in the socio-economic as well as the political lives of Nigerians, and what lessons that you of this generation can learn from all of these as you hold the baton towards national growth and development. You are also expected, I've said that as well too, to be familiar with the scope of culture and its characteristics and its interrelatedness, interconnectedness to human growth and development. All of these we've spoken about in our class of today. I've also mentioned some of the specific topics that we are going to be examining, that we'll be exploring, and we've spoken about the course objectives as well, specific objectives that will characterize our engagement together as we continue interrogating GST 112. We have outlined about 10 of these specific objectives, and we have spoken to them as well. And so that is just a general overview of the class of today. Like I said, when we meet again next class, by the grace of God, we'll be looking at culture and we'll be able to speak exhaustively on that particular topic. I want to thank you for being part of the class of today. Attendance will be taken. It has been taken already. And so I'll look forward to seeing you next week. Let me just give you specific items that will characterize or further characterize our engagement together in terms of course requirements. So I'll be giving you assignment. So that assignment will be submitted through the platform that I will inform you of much later. So you'll be having weekly assignments. Now, these weekly assignments will culminate into your CA, that is continuous assessment, and then your continuous assessment will be 70. The exam, continuous assessment will be 30. Your exam will be 70%. And so it is important that you attempt all of these as assignments will be given to you, and then submit them, because I'm going to give you specific time to submit them. There will also be tests, periodic tests, as we're almost on weekly basis. There will also be tests. Thankfully, last semester, we were able to do that successfully through the ingenuity of our members, as our colleagues at ICT. And so we're going to repeat the same exercise this semester. So on weekly basis, the last 10 minutes of the class will be used for an online test. It's just going to be 10 questions, and then you are going to answer them accordingly. And the result will be generated and passed across to me. So all of these will therefore be tabulated much later, and then we are going to find the average, and that will constitute your continuous assessment, which is 30%, and the examination will be 70%. So that is the course requirement. Another requirement is that attendance is mandatory. Do not tolerate students absenting themselves necessarily from my class. The university made provision that you should at least have 70% attendance. So it's very important. So make sure you follow this. It's going to affect your score, or even whether you're going to write this exam or otherwise. So attendance is mandatory. Thankfully, it is online. Even if it is physical, attendance is still very, very mandatory. And it is important that you make yourself available for the classes. So it is on this note that we'll stop the class this morning. I want to thank you again for being part of it. And I also want to encourage you to inform your classmates that the university has resumed for the rain semester, both for physical and online classes. The university has resumed for rain semester, both for physical and online classes. I want to thank you, and do enjoy the rest of your week. Good morning, all of you.